All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Enterprise Minds. Alex and Dave here with you. So in today's episode, after you like and subscribe and help with the podcast, we're going to talk about the ROI of AI and the business cases around that. There's been a lot of debates on this, and I know if you pay any attention to the markets and Wall Street, there's a lot of debate on the Wall Street side of things on what's actually the ROI on all of this infrastructure spending and, you know, the demand side of it. So Alex, this was your idea. So why don't you properly scope it for the rest of the audience and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of wanted to put together kind of a imaginary situation. Let's say you're at a company, you're trying to get more AI or AI licenses or access to it. You basically now need to put together a business case to basically kind of just pitch it. And what I'm saying by AI is basically any of the LLMs out there. So let's say you're trying to get access to, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever your flavor is. And your company currently will not fund it. So there's a couple of difficulties that I want to throw into this. One is there is, generally speaking, a monthly fee or cost for all of these different kind of licenses or access levels. And a higher cost that you pay usually just gives you more credits on it. Then the other side of it is once we especially hit like the agentic side where it's either doing things virtually as it's connected and you've given it permissions to access stuff, or it's doing things on your own computer, literally moving your mouse around like a ghost and clicking on things and doing stuff for you, that burns tokens really fast. So then you start getting outside of that, straight monthly cost kind of thing and now into how do you budget for the token cost piece of it? And then that kind of gets into this whole next piece of is the work that's being produced valuable? Can you actually make a business case out of this? Maybe you're putting together a presentation and it's able to throw together a presentation while you do something else. That's cool. It's probably going to be a little bit generic and you might go through 5 revisions of it, which is going to burn your tokens and credits like crazy. And then at the end of the day, you give this great presentation and what was the ROI of that? Right? So it starts to get kind of tricky once you have these kind of non-tangible pieces. And then also speaking, Dave, about the kind of markets as well from like a job loss aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Hours saved isn't always a great argument because then it sounds like, oh, so your coworker is expendable then, or you're expendable because you're saving 40 hours a week. That
Well,
sounds like a headcount reduction.
it's the bucket of work fallacy, right? So, we have a
Right.
certain amount of stuff that needs to get done each week, and if we can do it with 2 less people and AI, then that bucket of work is fine. But that
Right.
bucket of
Sounds
work
great.
has a bunch of holes in it. It is never full. It is always changing. It is like
Right. Yeah, which then I try to like play up is there cost like offset kind of savings? So let's say instead of doing a marketing campaign that hits one segment, you're able to do, you're able to split that up to 5 different segments and you have better landing pages, better ad copy, and
Mhm.
maybe a better return on your campaign. Maybe, maybe not. Kind of depends on a whole lot of other factors, to be perfectly frank, like
Right.
your budget and your bidding strategy and a bunch of other things of how you're maintaining your account, competitors, markets, general economy. There's a lot of pieces there that kind of are going to put some wrinkles into that argument pretty fast that you can't control. And then creating presentations and decks, like, okay, is are we creating value? Are we just throwing out slop? I have to admit, in the last couple of weeks, the first time it ever happened to me, I took something that was obviously AI generated from a colleague. I threw it into AI to summarize it so that it could then give me a concise version of the AI created thing in the first place.
Yep.
So we successfully avoided communicating directly with each other using AI. I have no idea if any thoughts were shared. So I don't know if it was actually a success.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, when it comes to if you look at a productivity side of things for me, I think
Yeah.
what work is valuable is an interesting
Yes.
question that people are now having to face because I think that depends. company to company and what the culture is, right? Like
True.
Amazon banning PowerPoints. I mean, how long has that been a case study on you don't need to do this? And yet, how many companies do you know default to if it's not on a PowerPoint, it doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So, yeah, cool. We could have already done this, but we haven't because change is hard, right? Um,
Yeah.
the biggest thing for me is operations. I think, 3 years, 4 years into AI, like, we were sold originally the creative part of it, but um it was getting better like you could start convincing yourself like, okay, yeah, the chatbots are doing a lot better in terms of writing emails, doing higher
Sure.
context work. And then you flip over to agentic and you're like, oh wait, you can't follow a process. Um like I think
Yeah.
it's been interesting. New York Times had an article. I think I read that. It was reading this yesterday, I think. Um, where they actually went and they did some of the examples that are used in the benchmarking studies.
Hmm.
And so it was okay, agents, what are you doing? And they tracked it all the way through. And on each thing, it failed. The agents failed in certain elements, but passed in other ones. And so it was so
Sure.
outcome driven that it didn't necessarily, it would like ignore certain things, or it would
Yeah.
like refuse to use the UI and instead would code itself its own thing so that it was easier for it to deal with. And it talked about like having a hard time with like basic Google Sheets work because it didn't want to deal with the user interface. It would rather
Sure.
code than dealing with the on-screen visual stuff. So one of the takeaways was that, okay, for a lot of this stuff, you still need the person to go through and make sure it didn't screw up, and stuff that is fairly simple for a person, like uploading, downloading a PDF, can actually be very difficult for these systems depending on how they play with each other. So that article is
Sure.
interesting. I'll put it in the show notes for people. You might have to log in or create an account, but it's worth reading because it's a third party test of all the stuff that we've been hearing from the labs. um
It will be interesting also to see. So AI companies, any of the frontier model kind of companies, the ones that I basically rattled off before,
right,
have been really focused on solving coding for about a year and a half, a little bit more than that.
right,
And so codecs and a bunch of other kind of elements of it are definitely for software engineers, built by software engineers. That's kind of their bread and butter
right,
of the talent pool that those companies are made up as. I mean, a lot of companies kind of fall into that default process of the things that seem like the biggest problems in the world are the things really that are biggest problems for the employees.
right.
Um, as it moves more towards this for work, GPT for work, or the Claude Cowork, and as well as Copilot's Cowork, the naming is terrible.
Right.
Branding overall and all these things is just ridiculous. But as it moves more towards this agentic side of things, of like it's actually trying to do day-to-day tasks, which is Excel sheets and PowerPoint and email and communication and chats and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think maybe it's just not there yet? Like I wonder
uh,
from the benchmark
I don't think
aspect,
it is.
like maybe it's just not built for that quite yet.
So, so this is a hot take. I might get in trouble, but I think if you look at what human beings do whenever they get put into a new job, one they might be unqualified for or unsure about,
Sure,
they naturally default to what their experience is prior. So
sure.
there's a lot of leaders where, all right, I've only ever done commercialization, but now I'm in this other thing. So I'm going to do this other thing with a view towards commercialization,
Commercialization, right? Of
because then
course.
at
Yep.
least something feels comfortable. Right.
Right.
And so, okay, if you have a bunch of engineers and coders who are engineering and coding, the systems that they create to mimic human behavior will be to mimic the creators and what
Hmm.
they prefer. So the fact that Cowork is built on the coding platform, it's it makes sense that it defaults to no, I'm just going to write a Python script for this because
Yeah.
that's there. Now, it is easy to anthropomorphize the AIs in this example. Please don't. It is computer code, right?
It's true.
But it also that's where the organizational change it's a little easy, it's a lot easier for smaller groups or solopreneurs or teams of five to adapt this and then just kind of look at each other and say, you know what, I never liked reading your PowerPoints, let's not do PowerPoints anymore. Right, it's a lot easier for that team to do that than up in the big enterprise where you know what, actually treating these tools as traditional software might actually be the problem, uh, instead of the solution that you're used to. You might actually have to treat these differently than just buying another SaaS platform.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't think the LLMs are definitely not there. I think the human in the loop has to be there. Like, and so
Absolutely. I mean, we're not even close to the point where it can do anything really solo of great value.
right. And for me, my biggest test has always been, did I at least hit 80%? Yes or no? Like, I don't, do I ever feel super good about what I turn in by the deadline? No, not really ever. Because you can always think like, I could have done, the third paragraph better, or, these charts are wonky because I just didn't have time to, get the graphic design done well.
Hmm.
Um, but I think there's little things too, especially with the agents and the chatbots that I've been discovering lately as I try to do more with these things. If I don't address a small issue that's pretty easy to overlook in a document, at the beginning, it gets carried through all these other things. And as it gets carried through these other things, because it's shown up multiple times, it gets amplified as we made this decision. It's like, yo, we never made a decision on
Yeah.
that. Stop talking about
Yeah.
that in a definitive sense, you know um so then that unwind is a lot harder, to what you've talked about previously on how like it goes down a rabbit hole and it gets unstuck. So how do you deal with that?
Right.
So yeah, you have to have that editing and that person in the loop for whatever process it is, to then say, hey, this is reasonable, this is okay, this is
Well, maybe this kind of runs back to that ROI discussion because
mm-hmm.
instead of it doing something novel, we're really talking about that person's work amplified, upgraded,
Right.
specialized, stuff like that. Like we're continuing to have the same person, same role. And that's the one thing I always get annoyed by whenever we talk about like layoffs in AI. It's not about that. It's about areas of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And AI is inert. It doesn't just care about your SEO so much that it just starts randomly sending you emails about SEO and random things and going off on the latest thing that it found off of LinkedIn, etc., and all the rest. No, that's an SEO. You hire somebody full time, that's what they do because
Right.
they care. They get really obsessed about an area and they
Right.
fight for it and they make it happen because internal processes are terrible always.
Right.
And it might take two steps one day, and the other time it takes 14 and a business case and a sprint and a ticket later, just because. And a person handles that, an agent doesn't. So if you have an area of responsibility for something straightforward with an output-driven thing like, let's say, analytics, and you've got a monthly report that you're saving time on,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it upgraded. And I think showing that you made a presentation from basic routine, one that comes out of GA or Adobe, like basic kind of monthly auto sent to you, maybe it's a SEMrush one, whatever it is,
Right.
versus pulling out the insights on it and making it more actionable, which is actually like turning a report to being useful. And you're now able to do that additional analysis. I think that's worth a lot. And that's I keep running back to this game that I did at Medtronic of because we would be budgeting demand gen campaigns
Right.
and what's the cost or the value of one additional webinar visitor? And
Right.
you have to ask that because you have to come up with a budget figure to put on a campaign. You're spending money, and everyone would always give me a blank face and it'd be like, okay, what if, and I can't guarantee quality, let's say $500. And they'd say, that's too much. They're like, okay, 200. And they're like, well, that seems okay. I'm like, 250? Man, okay, 250. We're starting with 250. That'll be
Right.
my goal. And literally that was the game because I couldn't figure out a better way to put a number on an intangible thing like a webinar viewer. Like, I don't know what's that worth. And to be honest, I have no idea what it's worth to anybody. And it changed all the time because some people
Right.
would be like, oh, it's only worth $50. Other people would be like, I'm willing to pay 1,000 because we're targeting surgeons. And honestly, it's really hard to get a surgeon to attend a webinar. So $1,000 is fine.
Right.
And that blows my mind. But an ROI discussion like that can quickly fail against other projects if you're in a budget meeting. Because you're saying now I've got better insights. Cool. Well, this other guy says he can save us money with a logistics project, a black belt, Six Sigma project. I guess I'm going to do that instead.
Well, and that's where there are some narratives and some environmental problems that I think we run into.
Yeah.
Um, so this is why I think with AI, because it's more the general purpose thing, not only are we hit with, okay, a tool can do this, but a tool can do damn near everything better, right? So now it's
Yeah.
hitting all aspects of the business, except nobody really knows because nobody's getting any training on anything. So everybody's just got their little pet projects and then that's what they're doing, right? So that, okay, that's problem number one. Problem number two,
Yeah.
because of all that, the leadership needs to lead on it. So if you don't have leadership that's talking about AI, proposing things and encouraging people to do stuff with AI to figure it out, you're not going to have a good strategy, nor will you have the air cover to create a good strategy because you're not, the system's not aligned to it.
Yeah.
So if you
Right.
have a CFO and a CEO whose narrative to the outside world, I mean, assuming it's a public company, is one of streamlining costs so that the margins are better, which you will never be fired for that narrative. Let's just be honest. That
Especially as the
you'll
CFO.
never be
Yep.
fired for that.
Yep.
So if you can deliver on that, great. How are you going to do that? You're going to tackle cost of goods sold, whether that's people or inputs or processes or waste or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, but there's going to be some friction that's necessary in order to produce quality things. All right, you can't just keep cutting your way to greatness. There's nothing in the world that has ever worked by cutting and then being great at something. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
um and so yeah, like you have to, especially if you're in an enterprise environment, outside of the small business stuff where you can be agile and adaptable, you need to really look and be like, who's actually helping with this? Are we set up to actually be successful with this if you care about it? And if not, you got to find somewhere that does. Because otherwise you're not going to get the training or the support or the whatever to be adapted to the next thing. Um so I don't necessarily think that it's going to hit as fast as a lot of people have predicted, right?
Hmm.
The financialization of damn near everything really bugs me. So I'll admit my bias there, but I do think that if you have the CEOs and the CFOs right now are way too focused on financial things for AI to actually be implemented properly because it's not just a financial thing, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good wrap up point to it. Can help It can make things easier. It can have a quality of life change. I mean, aspect of, taking away some of the annoyance work. I mean, stuff like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, when it gets to agentic solidly, I think that's when the job fear is going to get resurrected again of,
Mhm.
well, it can go create the report. What's the value of having an analyst? I mean,
Well, what's the value of the
that's
report though? I mean, that's
I know that's the thing. Is like that gets to a really dumb question because it's like, well, you hired a person for a reason, and the reason was not to create reports. It was to provide recommendations and insights and
mhm.
make the business better so it can become more profitable. It's not to
Right. One, I think
crank
one
out
of
reports.
you and I are both humanists. I think that would be safe to say.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's not necessarily a good thing when it comes to business brutality. Um, but let me reframe it this way. So for a lot of people, if you don't know, I'm a fan of F1, and I don't just watch the races. I watch all the pre-races. I watch the special things that F1 TV does and puts on the app. Like I'm in it. And there was one, they have this really interesting show called Tech Talk. Now, granted, I'm not an engineer. I am not interested in building things. I get really frustrated as soon as I have to measure twice on something, right? So I am not set up for this world, but I find it really interesting because it's a lot of smart people going to the pinnacle of something, right? How do you try to get to that very specific outcome on the edge of what's possible, right? That to me is the interesting thing. So this tech talk piece, it was the um, Sam is the host who has an engineering background and is very interested in aerodynamics and cars and whatever. He was talking to a now retired engine mechanic, formerly of Red Bull, and they were talking about how do you actually put things together between the engineers and you mechanics on the ground level, from the designs, the materials, the whatever, and the teams, and what are the processes with that, and how does all that work. And the guy immediately started talking about how when you're looking at the designs from the engineers, and the engineers are using all of these new AI models and all of these machine learning techniques and all of the CAD designs, and they're using
sure.
all the top mathematic
Top of it.
things and whatever.
Right.
When they start the new season in January, they have to then look at all of those things the engineers came up with over the holidays and then figure out how that's actually going to work in real life. And that theoretical to real life thing is really where the team success happens, because the mechanics have to say, hey, I know this worked on your CAD design, but I don't have space for a wrench to tighten that bolt. And if we don't tighten that bolt, we're going to have an engine vibration and it's going to ruin the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they have to go redesign everything, right? So the key thing with that is just that back and forth between the theoretical and then the on the ground thing. My brain, when I first heard that, because I'm a nerd, I immediately thought the difference between marketing and sales. You get a lot of these marketing centers who are like, here is the best practice. And theoretically, we should
Yeah.
totally do this and target this persona. Isn't that wonderful? And then the sales guys are like, y'all are in a treehouse. I don't understand what you're seeing, but that's not what anybody's saying on the ground. It's like, okay, well then tell me. Like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's work this out, right?
Right.
Um, but the thing between an F1 team versus regular businesses is there is a defined goal. And every weekend you get the feedback on whether or not you're getting close to that goal. I want to be on the podium.
Right.
Anything below
Top three.
the first three positions is a fail,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, if you're in sixth and you're consistently sixth, all right, you might be the best of the rest. But do you think sponsors want to work with the best of the rest? No.
Oh, you got limits. Yeah,
and how much you win depends on how much money you get the next year. I mean, it's just like all of these different things between the F1 system versus, how business actually works is fascinating to me, but that's a different episode. Um, but it was that feedback loop, right? And having that really defined goal of every weekend, we want to be in the top three, or at least
sure.
fighting for top three, right?
Right.
And if the engine system fails, well, that's an engineering problem. Or the carbon fiber rips to shreds because of a crosswind. Well, okay, materials guy, go redefine this so you don't, you know, ruin it for everybody else. All right.
Do you know what's not important in that story?
Reporting.
The AI system that they happen to use to make the thing in the first place. Because what matters is the output. It's basically is
Mhm.
that coordination that's far more advanced than chatbot telling you, hey, by the way, this is an interesting insight that could save you some money or do things a little bit differently. Great, but if you're presenting crap leads to your sales team and your sales team's like, this is terrible, and your
Right.
messaging makes absolutely no sense for our customers, and I have no idea what on earth you guys are doing, and please stop talking about discounting because we are trying to work on quality and, in justifying cost right now.
Right.
Like there could be so many disconnects there that then the tool doesn't matter so much. I mean, and you want to get better, and this tool can help you get a little bit better. Cool, grab the tool. So let's keep going.
Right.
It's not important.
Right.
And maybe that's it. Maybe it's getting the attention of some brand new, super expensive thing where really, to be honest, most of these tools are pretty darn cheap and the work is probably far more valuable, especially if you're talking about outputs of your work.
Right.
Once
And
you get
that's
that
where,
coordination, once you get that leadership, once
right.
you
And
get that
that's, and
point.
that's one of those things, right? I mean, what do you, if you were to sit through a race weekend, which is a large investment of time, but if you were to do that, you would see the the first practice of every weekend is all 22 cars going around the track at least 15 times to make sure that the car is set up properly for the environment they're about to race in for the rest of the weekend.
Hmm.
Right. So they will do up to, on a normal race weekend, they will do 3 practices, 2 on the first day, 1 on the second day. Then there's a qualifying race for
Hmm.
what position you start in for the race on Sunday. Right. So those first 3 practices are all about tuning your car and collecting enough data on the car to make sure any upgrades you brought to the track are working the way you thought they would,
Yeah.
and B, the car is actually set up to be successful for the rest of the weekend. And then you address any of those issues before you do the qualifying race, because there are certain tracks
Yeah.
where if you qualify poorly, you will not be able to move up because
Sure.
the tracks aren't set up for overtaking or anything, right?
Right.
Um, and
That's a
with
really
each
good.
practice, you have all the racing drivers in their interviews going, "Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the data. I need to go talk to the people about what race data we have and what changes we should make." So you get that constant feedback loop, and the reporting is handled a lot by some AI systems and whatever, but it's to facilitate a conversation,
Yeah.
right? And that's where I guess what I'm saying with this example really is my problem with the productivity debate really is, why do you need that output? If it's to create another spreadsheet, if it's to create another report, who cares? If all you're using AI is to, a CYA strategy, cover your ass strategy, why? That's not
Yeah.
really a good use of the tool,
I'm
right?
with you on that. And that makes sense. Also, the preview and practice rounds, you can imagine that also between a marketing and sales team saying like, I'm not setting expectations that we're going to nail it in one.
Right.
We're going to look at things for 3 months. We're going to meet, separately, and then we're going
Right.
to talk about basically what we have to go on and work on separately. And then we're going to come back, try it again, and say like, okay, if this was a real campaign month, leads would be coming in here. This would be what we would be getting from you. You'd be getting feedback on this. What kind of things are missing here? Okay, why was this bumpy? Why was this hard to pull together? Why was
Mm-hmm.
this feeling like a lot of extra work? You know, I can see that too, and especially from the leadership perspective too, of just like, look, this is going to take a while until we basically find this rhythm where we have something that's race worthy. And
Mm-hmm.
you can do it hypothetically even for 3 months, or you could do it for real for 3 months and make changes to a live campaign and the like.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see that working too, of just like focus on the result instead of focusing on all these inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Because the inputs might get cut at some point too, right? You provide some report, but we found out that seemed like a great idea. And the moment you met with sales, you're like, yep, we never actually used that. That was actually just a waste. Moving on,
Mm-hmm.
month two, we won't do it again.
Right. Yeah. You know how you
That
just
changes
spent
the
thirty
business
thousand
case.
dollars on campaign assets? Yeah, we only launched about 1,800 of them. So thanks.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens. And like, oh yeah, a creative agency, they send us the 5 zip files and be like, wait, what? You're like, oh yeah, they created 1,000 cuts of the same image. Okay. Our budget is
Right.
$500 a month. Oh, so you're gonna run like two of them? Yeah, like maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't
But
know
this
why
is
I'm
what you
spending all this
asked
time.
for. This is what the scope of work was.
Oh my
Contractually, I
gosh.
lived up to exactly what you said. You know?
So it's been a long time resizing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That poor schmuck.
Being billed at a rate that they will never take home. Yeah.
Well, and that's yeah, I think I mean we've tackled this topic a number of ways where okay, we're operating under an assumption that any increase to productivity is good.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of people reporting complete burnout because I have so many outputs now that I'm not
Yeah.
understanding what's going on. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and they were talking about how in their new role they're in charge of content, but the expectation from the company leadership is that because of AI, you can now write 3 blogs a week, plus social media, plus
Oh my
promoting
gosh.
anything else, plus whatever, right? And so she's like, okay, where where do I apply AI to this? Is it the writing? Maybe. Editing has to go through me,
Yeah. We want decent
but
quality. It
now
doesn't
I'm
look like
reading
slop.
a bunch of AI blogs for my job. That's not why I
You
got into
posting them.
this.
That's your
Right,
job. It's just the process piece. Upload. You get to click the buttons. Not do the creative, right? Not create content, not create a
right,
strategy even. Sounds like, I mean, you're just pumping and dumping at that point. Like
right. And at
that's
what point is that? Are you creating differentiated content? Probably not.
no,
So then when they
eventually
say, "Hey,
no. Maybe
why is marketing not working?" Well, because you outsourced everything to AI, and AI is only
cannibalize the
good at
heck out of
what has
yourself.
worked in the past. It has nothing to do with novel ideas or creating things. Like, do you think
Yeah.
AI would ever recommend anything that Liquid Death has done for their marketing? No, it
No.
wouldn't even come to its idea space.
It's
Like,
actually built against that. There's a p-value, which is a creative lever, and that's always set very low with any of the public models.
right.
And it's really, really hard to get any of the public models these days to change that value, to get
Mm-hmm.
it so that it actually starts pumping out creative stuff instead of just in the same vein. I can't tell you how many times I have tried. Sorry, listeners, this is true though. I have tried using AI to come up with podcast topic ideas, and my gosh, is it awful! I've been doing this for like 2 years, and I've been trying to be like, okay, I don't have any ideas. Like, what do you got? And it's like, oh, those are terrible.
Yeah.
Like just dry, terrible comments. And like, why would you ever want to listen to any of these? Like, just a terrible list. And I can't get it to like ever create like the kind of creative things that we come up with for every episode that we just come up with from life experience, stuff we're exposed to and everything else, like the
Right.
the human aspect of creativity. And man, I mean, our transcripts are out there. We've got what, 60, 70 episodes out there. You think you'd have enough.
Right.
No. My gosh, no.
Mm-hmm. Or I was looking at that on YouTube where it's like, hey, YouTube Studio now has
Oh yeah.
a
You
generator.
should create a topic on this.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, do I want to do this? Do I not? Da da da. Right. But I mean, this again comes back to productivity for what? So like,
You're
great, I
right.
can pump out a bunch of social media posts, but why? Like,
Right.
I know I need to adapt into doing more video on Instagram and TikTok, and that's the way of the future, whatever. But then I look at like what video is done to LinkedIn, and I'm like, the biggest problem for me with short videos is it's a whole bunch of people assuming that I give a crap what they think about. And I know I'm guilty of that with this whole podcast medium too. But like, I just don't. I'm sorry. Like, I'm kind of in the mood today. So like, I'm sorry, but if you're just out of college, don't tell me operations advice. You haven't lived long enough to give me operations advice. I'm sorry. I
And a
can't prevent
video
you from
isn't
doing
required.
that, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Maybe you have a good idea in there. I'm open if there's a good idea, I'm open to hearing good ideas. But at the same time, you got a lot of hills to climb before there's any of that kind of trust there, right?
And if you're
Um,
pumping out content like crazy, you erode whatever trust you've already built with your reputation. And
right.
that's, I think, something that companies don't think about with the whole AI content mill, content generation thing is you're going to pump out how many LinkedIn posts per week? And your idea is that the more output is better. And who's actually liking any of these? Your own employees. Really, if you look at the data, it's almost always your own employees and nobody
Right.
else, or some
Right.
random people that who have absolutely not inside your customer set.
The people who
That's
want to
it.
be a vendor to you are liking your stuff
Or
too.
yeah,
It's not, yeah,
exactly. Future employee kind of thing, or people who just randomly like random stuff. And it
right.
doesn't mean they're going to buy.
Right.
No, the metrics, I mean, so many of that stuff gets gamified. I mean, you talk about like the over financialization of business. You hit it nail on head, especially with once you start looking at output driven roles. That's
Mm-hmm.
bad leadership. It's not bad
Mm-hmm.
roles. It's not bad people. It's bad
Right.
leadership because that is a terrible KPI.
Right.
It's not posts per week.
Right.
Come on.
Well, but if you could have that conversation of, hey, we know that if anybody reads three of our blogs per week or interacts with 20 pieces of content, they are six times more likely to purchase something, then great.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
at least
demand-based,
strategic.
intent-based stuff. You can absolutely pull that if you use the tool set to pull that stuff. You totally
Right.
can.
You could. How many
Yep.
companies in your experience are doing anywhere near that level of data work?
One that I've ever met or two. That's it, out
Right.
of like hundreds.
Right.
No,
Even the
not
people
even
who have
close.
the budget for all the tools to be able to tell you that, they just like to pay for all the tools,
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Like
Oh my gosh, yeah. The MarTech stack of like the graveyard, there's so many boat payments being made. Like
mm-hmm,
it's crazy. Like because also like that kind of intent data is super valuable and actionable, but that's the key piece. Action.
mm-hmm,
Who is going to care enough to take the action, and are they going to do it consistently month after month? And if the answer is no, you probably don't need the tool. I mean,
right,
sadly, that's an internal process problem or an internal hiring and leadership problem. Like,
right.
sorry, you need a better strategy first.
And you
Then
know
you
who
can talk
doesn't want
about
to
tool
hear their
set.
leadership is bad?
Yeah, I know.
Leaders.
Leaders. Okay, on a slightly different note, I'm going to throw this in at the end, just to brighten the mood a little bit. Uh, um, this is a very random story, but I was helping my daughter shop for a birthday gift for one of her friends, and we
Mm-hmm,
came past a K-pop Demon Hunters whole slew of toys. And one
right.
of them was a guided journal. And I flipped through this thing while she was debating Lilo and Stitch versus whatever other toy it was. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
things, different license IPs. It's one versus
right.
another, let's be honest. Um, I was flipping through this thing, and it's actually really good for a guided for a guided journal. I like journaling personally, so I was like, this is kind of interesting actually, because it was like, the demon hunters after they play a show, they like to relax. What's six things you like to do to relax?
Right.
I was like, okay, I could probably name three, but I don't know if I could name six. That's actually a decent writing prompt. Or they like a bunch of different Korean foods. Circle the ones that you'd like, and stuff like that.
Right.
And it was like, and they're short, little tiny journals. I mean, you can probably fit 100 words on the little tiny piece of paper that they give you, but decent prompts, like actually
Right.
pretty decent. And I have seen half the movie, so I don't even really know the show that well. But I do know Firefly, Star Wars, Star Trek, those ones, sci-fi stuff, definitely my jam.
Hmm.
So I asked Claude, I was like, hey, I came across this toy. I think it was kind of cool. Create for me a bunch of a journal-based kind of writing prompt guided journal thing based on these things around the idea of like new AI ideas and concepts kind of pushing towards that area.
Right.
And it knocked it out and it was great. I mean, it even created like a little like cover art for the thing and going through them, some of them were awkward and stilted and didn't quite work, but the majority did. I mean, you can kind
Right.
of work around it. Um, and one was kind of cool. Like it got to a point of like what would be like some things that you'd create, just 5 minutes, no bad answer, make a list.
Right.
Um, so I kind of came up with different ideas and stuff like that. So just the creativity was not the system or the
Right.
AI tool. The
Right.
creativity was me. This was a guided way to basically get that creativity out of me into a journal of something that I could use. Back to AI again, kind of a little bit of a loop there, talking about human in the loop.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of where some of the key is basically is still the human creativity. Maybe it can help structure it. Maybe it can help prompt you. I've talked before about a book project. A lot of that was helpful because the AI tool kept prompting me, okay, what's next? Do you want to work on the next chapter now?
Right.
And easy to say yes to that versus just having a blank Word doc that just ends when you see the end.
Right.
Um, I don't know. It was cool. I created a little random game. I don't know. Fun stuff.
Right.
Try something fun.
That that to me, I mean, you talk about the Martech graveyard and all of that. Throughout my entire career thus far, it has always been how do I free up menial, stupid tasks, like templated tasks,
Yeah.
so that I can be more strategic, more creative.
Yeah, creativity is it, man.
That
It's
that is what
strategy is
sells
really creativity at its
products.
core.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You don't get brand differentiation without creativity. You don't get brand
true.
differentiation without a unique voice and understanding who you're for, who you're not for, how you're going to talk to them, right?
It's all the
Like,
way down. Like you don't get a better click-through rate, you don't get a better conversion rate, you don't get more people stopping at your booth without
right,
creativity. Like all of those.
right.
It all is the same answer.
And one of the main problems of having a bunch of engineers and a bunch of coders putting together things to do work and to do creative work is the fact that they see that creativity is a problem to solve. Creativity is not a
Exactly.
problem, it is the
No.
method, right?
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And maybe that's really kind of where some of these agentic tools and all the rest are kind of failing because they do give really generic. Like I had one create a PowerPoint recently, and oh man, if I was an entry-level employee, solid.
Right,
For me, not good.
right.
Like if you compared it to my prior decks, and I've even taken classes on creating decks and stuff, like
Of
gone
course
into
you
it.
have. You're the only person I know that would have
It
said
was
that.
required by a job. I kid you not. Everyone at the company in a certain role all had to take the same class,
Oh
and
my
it was
God.
about presentation and communication and clarity, and it got down to basically creating really good decks. Um,
Wow.
But it got down to the point of basically is like it's kind of like billboards. You can present very little information per slide, and you need to kind of keep it moving, and you need to keep the story very strong. And that's
Right,
it, really. Create the argument, nail that argument to the wall with short, very clear aspects. And you can tear apart a graph. I always do. So it's a build. So it's three different slides. So you kind of talk about each element as it comes together. You don't just throw up a giant graphic and try to help people's eyes kind of go everywhere.
right.
Like that kind of stuff. And this thing, man, it just threw out like, I was like, okay, give me an executive summary. And it was an executive summary. I swear it put 350 words inside a slide. And I was like, no,
Right,
that's not a summary. That's a mini book. That won't work. That
right,
just doesn't work. And that's the thing is it solved the problem. It created the deck. I mean, technically, yes. It discussed the notes that I put in.
right.
But man, it was not a good one, and it was not a good enough persuasive argument, which does take a little creativity, knowing your audience and nailing that audience. Who this is a less technical audience with a technical topic, which means I got to cut down the word count and I need to make the argument stronger and
Hmm.
clearer. Like
So, I mean, that's okay. Since you're a sci-fi nerd, I was
yeah,
thinking the other day, assuming AI continues to go the way that people think it's going to go, and then all right,
yes,
it's not enough just to have AI agents or chat bots, but now we have to bring the AI into the physical space.
yes.
Okay. What do you think the adoption rates would be if AI came out like a C3PO?
It depends on usability. There's one that just so robotics and soft robotics and stuff I've started following really closely because it is
Okay.
advancing super fast due to AI.
Right.
There's a robot that just came out recently that had a 99.7% success rate with folding random clothes that were basically thrown at it, except it took 2 minutes and 51 seconds per article of clothing.
Right.
So awesome. It's laundry robots have been a big idea for a long time. It's very, very difficult because of randomness. So
Right.
how do you have a
Big shirts,
random,
little shirts, pink shirts, brown shirts.
oh, I mean, just a tumbled mass that comes out of a dryer and now folded all perfectly.
Right.
That's a lot of different objects to recognize and things to manipulate and all that kind of stuff. So it's difficult, and I get that. There are always, I think it's a great example though, because it internal into a house, if you look at cooking methods across the last 100 years, you'll see the rapid change of appliances and how those
Hmm.
appliances have changed the way and the amount of time that we spend cooking. Microwaves are amazing in terms of that. The time savings from that versus maintaining a fire is astoundingly great. You're not
Right.
chopping wood anymore. You're zapping the thing for a minute and you're good to go.
What's a better
Like,
meal though?
so I know. It's like, yeah, it's questionable on the end result, but I mean, yeah, you got something. It's technically food.
Uh-huh.
Um, but looking at all that, I mean, let's include the, better pans and pots and pans and everything else that kind of goes along with that kind of stuff. That adoption curve happens slowly. I mean, if you
Right.
look at air fryers, which was a big fad as a mini convection oven, those have been around for a long time. Instapots, that is a pressure cooker, also have been around for a really long time.
Right.
To get it to popularize can take 30 years.
Hmm.
And it can take, new brands and tons of brands trying it and failing at it, and tons of cookbooks finally including recipes using the new fangled device and all the rest. I
Right.
mean, it's slow. So, I mean, look at robotic lawnmowers. They have not replaced regular lawnmowers yet. They're getting to a
Experienced
point.
one for the first time the other day, and it was fascinating. Uh, it was a
You're
lot bigger
back.
than I thought it would be, but I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
wow, if I had a huge lawn, I think I might go for this
Oh
because
yeah.
it's just kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's a Roomba, man. Like, which also vacuum cleaners still around. Roombas and robotic
Mhm.
vacuum cleaners also
Oh yeah, I
still
use my
around.
stick
Like,
vacuum way more than my Roomba because it actually
yeah.
cleans.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's
Yeah,
limitations to what it can handle. And having a big giant robot that its only purpose is folding clothes,
right.
no, can't.
Maybe in the industrial scale if you can bring up the
Oh,
speed,
sure.
but
Yeah, if you're a dry cleaning business or something, that sounds great.
right.
In a home,
But
no.
so you went really useful with this. In my mind,
Dude, it's gonna be people, let's be honest, they're probably gonna be dating the robots before that thing starts folding
they're going to be
clothes.
dating the
And those
robots
ones
before
will
then.
probably
Yeah,
be, people at homes pretty fast.
but also look at CPO and how just obnoxious he is.
Yeah.
Do you really want the know-it-all? Like, hey, that's a great point, but if you did it this way, blah blah blah, blah, blah. No, shut up. Never tell me the odds, right?
Yeah, the C3PO I never really saw the value.
Yeah, but
Translation, that is awesome, but it seems like it could be handled in better ways. But
right,
yeah,
yeah.
diplomatic service,
Anyway,
I don't know.
an interesting discussion. We have to end for unfortunately, for other things. Um, like, subscribe, share. Thank you for sticking around this long. Please tell us what you think. What do you think, the F1 world or the Star Wars robot universe is a better proxy for this discussion? So, um, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful next set of weeks, and we will see you in the next episode of Enterprising Minds. Take care.